Welcome, everyone, to the Spend Life Well Show, where we apply biblical wisdom to your financial life. Today, we're talking about taxes, Jesse.
Okay.
Everybody loves taxes.
Taxes are great.
And we love it. And with a new administration coming, this is what's buzzing among Congress and all the American people.
Yeah, everybody thinks that this new wave of politics is going to drastically change the tax world.
So we're supposed to pay our taxes, right? Jesus said we're supposed to pay our taxes.
That's right. Matthew 22:19 through 21. Jesus says, "Show me the coin for the tax." And they brought him a denarius.
This is where the Pharisees were trying to entrap him, saying, should we pay taxes?
Yeah, they're trying to trick him. And Jesus said to them, "Whose likeness and inscription is this?" And they said, "Caesar's." And he said to them, "Therefore render to Caesar the things that are Caesar's, and to God the things that are God's." So
I would love to have been there.
just mic drop.
Just that's what he should have done. But it's like these guys are so desperate to try to trip him up. And you're thinking there when he gives his answer, it's like, "Go!" They're like, we didn't think that through. So today our discussion is on a recent opinion piece from the Wall Street Journal. That was dated November 29th, 2024. What the 1% really pays to the IRS. Now, this could be controversial, Jesse, because we all know the 1%ers are our problems.
That's right. That's been a hot button phrase, if you will.
And I'm exaggerating, of course.
Yeah. And they do pieces like this every year whenever the data comes out of who paid how much taxes.
Because that's all we heard. We need people to pay their fair share on the campaign trail.
That's right.
The rich need to pay their fair share. I just want you to remind you of that slogan that was floating around every campaign season.
Mm-hmm.
And as Congress is going to be debating next year in the new session of extending President Trump's 2017 tax cuts, the top 1% of income filers, get this, Jesse, provided 40.4% of all the tax revenue in 2022.
Yeah, I analyzed some of this data on my own outside of the article.
Yeah.
And I found that the top 1% earned a total of $3.3 trillion, or an average of $2.1 million. And that's heavily skewed, obviously, because of the highest earning people in the country, like pro athletes and CEOs, celebrities, and stuff. They're going to highly skew that data. But when you add in the top 10% of filers,
this is the people that are just really getting by.
Yeah.
No, these are people that are well off too.
Yeah, they're well
top
off.
Top 10% of income earners.
Yeah, they carried 72% of the tax burden.
Okay, so 10% of all American taxpayers provided 72% of all the tax revenue in the United States. Okay, all right, I got it. But they're not paying their fair share.
Well, today's top marginal rate for our highest earners is 37% at the federal level. So that's going to be contentious moving forward.
Right, because they want to tax them more.
Yeah.
And this could be an area of flexibility.
Maybe a bargaining chip
for Trump, because that's how the Democrats are able to take it back to their constituents and say, hey, we stuck it to the rich man.
Right. That's how they pay their fair share, right?
Yeah, but it doesn't seem like when 10% of the earners pay 72% of the, what is fair? I mean, I don't understand. I never have understand. When you ask them what is a fair share, they never can answer the question, mainly because probably several of them are in that top 1%er category as well.
Well, let's get into the actual numbers here. What does 1% mean? So that's, by the numbers, that's 1.5 million tax returns in the U.S. So that's households, 1.5 million.
Okay.
And that means that your adjusted gross income on the line item there on your tax return is above $663,000.
Okay, so that's a high number for adjusted gross income, and this number, people that are in this category, made up to about a little over 22% of the country's total reported earnings. Mm-hmm. Yet their share of income taxes was nearly double of that at 40.4%. Mm-hmm. Their average federal tax rate was 26.1%. What about the top 1 to 5%, between the top 1 and 5%?
So between 1 and 5%, this is about 6.2 million returns or households, and that range is from 262,000 to that 663.
Okay, so now we're getting into what some middle income families might be earning, but congratulations, they're in the top 5%ers.
Right.
Between 262,000 of adjusted gross income and below 663.
About 15 or 16% of total earnings in the U.S.
Okay, but they contributed about almost 21% of the income tax revenue.
And their average rate's 18.8.
Okay. So these two groups together, the 1%ers and the
5%ers.
the 5 to 1%ers, constitute about 61% of all tax revenue. Now, let's take it a step further. What about those folks that are between the top 5% and the top 10%?
Yeah, this represents 7.7 million returns, and that's income of at least 179,000 on that AGI line.
So between 179,000 and 262.
Yeah.
But below that 262,000.
Correct.
So their share of earnings accounted for 11.1%, and they almost matched their share of taxes paid, also about 11%. Right. That group's average tax rate was about 14.3%. And so this is how we get to that earlier number we talked about of the 10% paying 72% of all tax revenue.
Right.
What about the bottom 50%?
So
50%.
This is the surprising part. So take 50% of tax filers and draw a line on the bottom end. That's 76.9 million tax returns for households. These people have earnings under 50,000.
Okay. So their share of income is about 11.5%. Their share of tax is actually 3%.
3%.
3% of the total, not just their average tax rate was around 3.7%. Now, what's interesting here, and we'll get to this in a second, that a lot of these households below 50,000 are actually not paying any taxes at all.
Yeah.
But that's another story. So despite the 2017 reforms, this is through the Tax Cuts and Jobs Act, those were modest cuts in individual tax rate. The tax code continues to soak the upper middle class as well as the rich. And this doesn't include the state and local taxes that people pay.
Right. So here in Texas, we don't have to worry about that.
That's correct.
I know we have a couple listeners in California and maybe East Coast clients in Washington, things like that.
We're sorry.
Yeah, we're sorry.
The door is open on the northern side, at least. You're welcome to come move to Texas. Okay. The Wall Street Journal article had several graphs and things. We thought they were very interesting. But given the data, Jesse, it's really impossible to pretend that the top 1% somehow are getting a free ride. But this is what the political argument is all the time.
This is, of course, why it's an opinion piece, but it's true. The exact share of income taxes paid by the 1% moves somewhat from year to year and does change with economic conditions, but they're still paying 40% of all taxes.
Right, and that's in a situation that was during the pandemic year, 2021. That's an outlier, but the trend over recent decades is clearly up. So, what will happen to taxes during the upcoming Trump round 2?
We don't know, but we have some educated guesses.
Yeah, and we talked about this on our post-election market wrap-up, what we predicted there once they determined a winner. And we think that the Tax Cuts and Jobs Act will be extended in some capacity. So I think we'll enjoy at least a few more years of these types of cuts.
Which will be really nice for the clientele that we work with, which is that retiree group. The people who are really fighting for those dollars and cents on the tax brackets. That's a great benefit to you all moving forward for at least the next couple of years that passes.
So the top, if they do have to give up and concede on changing the top bracket from 37% to 39.6. Now, this is just federal. It doesn't include state and local. Changing that up to 39.6, that could be used as a bargaining chip to get through an extension of those tax cuts.
But if you're making $850,000 and you have to pay 2% more tax, I think it's
Well,
reasonable, but
yeah,
I
but
don't make
that's a lot. That's a
850,000.
lot. That's a lot. So, anyway, we just wanted to shed some light on this topic because it's a common conversation that takes place during the election cycle about the rich need to pay their fair share.
Mm-hmm.
The top 1%, or really the top 10% of all Americans, are paying over 72%
Right.
of all income. What was not in here too that we didn't talk about in this particular session was the fact that a lot of households with incomes below 50,000 actually have a lot of earned income credits, which doesn't get taxed, and in effect wipes out any income tax that they may be paying.
Right.
So it's as if they're paying nothing and actually getting money for free. But that's the tax code as it stands. We're not here to critique that or anything. That's just the reality. But we just wanted to make sure that you were informed of what really is happening when it comes to people paying their fair share. So,
That's right.
as always, Jesse, people can reach out to us if they have any questions about this or any other financial planning topics. Our team is available via text at 254-282-0495, or you can email us anytime at info, that's info, at clearvistafinancial.com. We wish you all the best, and we pray that you have a blessed holiday season, a wonderful new year beginning. And until next time, you've been listening to the Spend Life Well Show.
Securities offered through Cambridge Investment Research Incorporated, a broker-dealer, member FINRA, SIPC. Advisory services through Cambridge Investment Research Advisors Incorporated, a registered investment advisor. Cambridge and Clear Vista Financial are not affiliated. Discussions in the show should not be construed as specific recommendations or investment advice. Always consult with your investment professional before making important investment decisions.